Tim, how's it going today?
Great. Killing it.
Killing it. That's always good. Well, you are killing it.
Birthday. It's my twin's birthday today. So I have about 30 kids. And so my last two kids we call them the Twimmons. My last name's Timmons, so we call them the Twimmons. So they are 10 today. So it's a good day.
And they're so your last born kids were twins.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yes, I should write a whole book just on that with my wife. So
it's like we're gonna have one more kid, honey, and then you have twins. What is it like to balance twins? You've totally thrown me off here because now I need to know, what is it like to balance twin babies and then twin 10-year-olds? It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate for this call. That's what I'm trying to say. The words that I learned and that I used were not appropriate for this call, but I actually think Jesus was like, that's funny. That's really funny and well played, Timmons. So yeah, it was really hard, but they're amazing humans and I'm so grateful for them.
That's amazing. Well, happy birthday to them. And I was thinking we're going to start talking about the album here, and you just threw me for a loop there.
Yep,
and that's amazing.
Get ready.
I'm gonna brace myself for that.
Yes, you might.
All right, so you've got a new album. It's called Here. Why did you choose? I want to get into a million things with you about your story, but why did you choose that title, Here?
Yeah, gosh, it's so tied to my story and my journey. But the idea of here, I have a hard time, and I watch other people that have a hard time being present. And not just being present with themselves or others, but being present in the presence of God. And, I'm always future tripping on something or practicing worry, or I'm practicing whatever I practice, just where my attention is on other things. But I think Jesus' invitation is just be here with me in this moment. And if you want to walk in my presence, then I'm right here. I'm not like a year from now. I'm not a month ago. I'm right here in this moment. And how do I just have my attention on him in the midst of life when, I've got 20 kids, or when somebody cuts me off on the road? How am I actually present with Jesus, joining him in my day? That's really my hope and my prayer. So I write songs, and I actually call them prayers, because they're prayers that I want to pray in the gathering when the church is gathered and when the church scatters for the rest of the week. These are the things I want to pray, and hopefully other people get to pray it with me.
Yeah, and that's a great call out too, because I think a lot of us right now in today's day and age, between, it used to be just like TV would be distracting, but now it's cell phones and it's tablets and it's just life. I mean, things are really distracting, and the normal things technologically that would have kind of taken us out of being here and being present, there are other distractions that can pull us away if we let them from finding that time with God. And I've noticed that in my own life, it's a struggle. And I watch my kids, they're watching me on my cell phone, they're watching me do work all the time on different devices. And you think, gosh, they're going to learn this. If I don't figure out how to be here and be present with God, they're going to pick up those same patterns, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's the other side of this is a danger that we just say, well, then we shouldn't do any of the other things, but we have to live and get out of bed and work and do all the things that we do. So what's it look like to be present and join Jesus while I'm at work, in the mundane, in the crazy chaotic? What's it look like to join him in those moments versus just, because I think we could say, let's just be with Jesus all day, but that doesn't even work, because I'm everywhere all day long. I'm being pulled in 1,000 directions. So what's it like? And the monks, they nailed it. They're like, forget this. We're just going to go and be off and just be in the presence of God, which I love. And we've learned so much from them. But that I'm not a monk, and for many reasons. And I think Jesus is here and present in this moment. And I don't invite him into my world, which is what I did most of my life, was to invite him into my own world. Like, Jesus, would you be with me today as I blank, blank, blank? And I think that's a really backwards prayer that has almost become a cuss prayer in my house. It's like, we don't say, Jesus, be with me today. It's like, how do I join you, Jesus, and what's already going on? So that's what this record is inviting us into that.
Well, and you had a quote, and I'm going to quote you, which it's basically what
Get
you
it.
just said, which is for most of my life, I found myself working for God, not with him. And I was going to ask you to explain that. And you just kind of did, but is there anything else you want to add to that? Because I think a lot of us, that's where we are, right? We just kind of like figure out how do we fit God in with what we have going on.
Totally. And no shame attached to it whatsoever. That would be a dangerous place to go. But I think the greater invitation from Jesus. So it was maybe 10 or more years ago. I was a pastor at a really large, awesome community in California, Southern California, a worship leader there. And it was so great. And yet, as I was leaving, my soul was exhausted. I was a varsity American Christian. It's hard to get better than me. It's just true. Like if there's a Letterman jacket, I would have worn it. And I don't know what the captain thing would have been, but it would have been awesome. And in that, I was still exhausted. My soul was tired. And I started looking around at every pastor I knew, and their souls were exhausted and going, okay, so the people that were actually shepherding, if you will, they're just the same place. They're exhausted. And so I decided I'm done working for you, Jesus. Not in a lame way of like, I'm done with you, Jesus. I'm just done working for you because this doesn't work. This religion thing just doesn't work when I'm working for you. So I literally quit working for him. I signed a paper and said, I'm done. And said, I want to just start joining you in whatever you're doing. So if I need to work at Starbucks and that's where I get to work for the rest of my life, what would it look like for me to join you, Jesus, at Starbucks? How do I, instead of work for you, I walk with you? And so that's really been my aim for the past 10 years in my life has completely changed because of that.
Well, I was going to say, how did your life change? Because you talk about that exhaustion of it's almost like, we talk a lot in the Christian world about don't get hung up on just doing things because you feel like you have to do them to please God, like these rituals that we sort of get into. But yet a lot of us still fall into that with what you just described, the way in which we live our faith out and the way in which we assume we have to constantly be working, for God rather than, with him. So yeah, just talk about the specific ways your life changed as a result of that.
Yeah, I think, it's funny. I left that job and I just started saying, number one, what if Jesus is actually real? Not this Christian ideal thing that I've played my whole life. What if he's actually legit real and is actually the same spirit that raised him from the dead is actually inside of me all week long, not just in the 80 minutes that we gather every week, but in the 10,000 minutes until we gather again. What if the same spirit's actually in me? I mean, that's a crazy question that we go, oh no, it is. But I'm like, okay, great. What if that was actually true though? What if I lived like that were true? So that began my journey of going, okay, I want to figure out if that's true. And if it is, Jesus, I want to just join you in that. So that plays out in pretty much every area of my life, whether it is worry. I've been addicted to worry most of my life. And as I travel the country, the majority of us are addicted to worry. And that's what we practice. I mean, we get good at what we practice. So I practice worry. And I think Jesus' great invitation is, Tim, you could totally do that, but how's that going for you? Or I could practice trust. And so that's really what my aim in life is for myself and for my community friends. And then now I get to point the world toward that with my songs or with my podcast or all the things that I'm doing.
I love that. And let's talk about, you went through a really difficult situation, I think 21 years ago, getting a cancer diagnosis, and I believe incurable cancer diagnosis. Talk through that moment, what was going through your mind and how that diagnosis changed you.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the words that I probably used at that point, I can't share in this as well. They gave me 5 years to live 21 years ago, and there's still tumors on my liver at the moment that they say are wearing out my heart. But I keep waking up. And I think the great gift in all of this stuff, again, I'm not a fan of cancer. I'm not a fan of whatever you are walking through today. I'm not a fan of that thing, divorce or whatever it is. But I do know that in my journey, my story is not cancer, but it's walking through it with Jesus and seeing him in and through it all. And so how it's changed me. Gosh, I'm just a different man because of it. I would not be who I am without it. And again, I'm not celebrating it, but I celebrate God in and through it.
Well, and what it's done for your perspective, because I just want to pause here for a minute, because I kind of got chills a little bit listening to you. You were just talking about, worry. And of course, worry is something everybody struggles with. But the way you've chosen to live your life, knowing that this is something that it wasn't like you had this diagnosis and it went away. This is something that's remained with you. And that the natural worry that people would have over all sorts of things, this is a very different kind of worry, because it's something that it involves life or death. And that shapes, I would imagine, a lot of different parts of how you react to everything in your life. It just puts things in perspective, I would imagine.
It does. I think perspective is the greatest gift in all of this. In any calamity or sorrow that we go through, we have the invitation toward perspective and what we will then give our attention to in the middle of it. And there are many days that I have not chosen a sober perspective, if you will. And then there are days that I say, okay, Jesus, I want to actually practice this, just trust today, or whatever. I write this X on my wrist every single day with a Sharpie, and
So it's not a tattoo. That is a Sharpie.
It's a Sharpie, because if I had a tattoo there, I'd forget. But every day is like, okay, I've got a Sharpie right here. Just every day at some point, sometimes a few times a day, I will write that on my wrist, just remembering, okay, you woke up again today. Like, that's the great gift that everybody that's listening to this right now, we woke up again. And that some days is really hard, but we woke up again. Like, Jesus is not done, and we get to join him in what he's already doing today. So, I write songs that, like, my song now that's out is called This Is the Day. And it's out of Psalm 118, which I completely ripped off the psalmist, which is great. But I ripped that off. But that was written not in this happy-go-lucky time, but it was written in this really tumultuous, dangerous, scary time of when in the middle of the psalm, right? So because all this crap is going on, everywhere, God, I'm just going to remember that this is the day that you have made, and I'm going to rejoice. I'm going to pursue you, Jesus, joy. And I'm going to find contentment. I'll be glad in it. And my contentment is just in the fact that you're here and you're at work in all things. So when I'm writing this every day, it's going, okay, God, this is a day that you've made. I want to join you in it instead of inviting you into my little microcosmic world. And gosh, my whole day shifts when I remember that.
That's an incredible reminder, because a lot of us, I get upset over, my Starbucks coffee wasn't warm enough, or these ridiculous things, right? That in the moment you're all bent out of shape about it, and you mentioned again that word perspective. You put it into perspective. It's like, you have something, and I just want to revisit this again, because you were given 5 years, and it's been 21 years. When you heard 5 years the first time, I know you said you can't share some of the words, and I understand that, but what is the essence of what was going through your mind in those days and weeks that followed that diagnosis?
Oh gosh, it's hard to think back to 21 years ago, but I think the first year we're like, okay, Jesus, you're going to heal me. This is awesome. How fun is this going to be to watch you heal me in front of all these people? I was at this ginormous church community, and they were all praying, and so I was like, this is going to be awesome. The world is going to see you, Jesus. And then a year later, I'm in this crazy surgery, and I'm still not healed. And I think my wife went through a long journey of just a wrestling match with God. I mean, with some strong words as well. And yeah, I think you kind of come to a place of, oh, okay, so I'm not healed at the moment, and the doctors are still seeing this stuff, and I'm alive today, but there's so much coming down. Who knows about tomorrow? And you kind of come to a place of, okay, is God good or is he not? Is he God or is he not? And how do I relate to him in the midst of all this? So I just think questions are so helpful. And a lot of times in the religious Christian side of things, we just go, you just need to believe, because this is what we're told to believe. And I think it's pretty dangerous. So I think calamity and sorrow are some of the greatest gifts we are given. I don't think God's giving us those gifts, but I think life just happens. My dad always says, wait a week, it's coming, and how do we actually walk with Jesus, and even with honesty in the midst of those things, I think is where things start to get powerful. And I've become dangerous in a good way because of these things. So I don't grow because of good things happening in my life. I grow because of the sorrow and the pain that goes on.
Well, and, and feel free to step in and say, no, I don't agree with you on the theology of that, because it's helpful when people do that. But, from like listening to your story, watching how God uses things that happen in life for, a positive purpose. I mean, here thinking I'm going to get healed, people are going to watch this happen.
Yeah.
It's been a different circumstance for you, but people are watching God through that circumstance still. They're seeing God through you in this long journey in a very different way than maybe what you imagined that first year. Would that be accurate?
Man, that's so accurate. And I guess I have high expectations in life, and I learn that all the time, and I'm reminded of that all the time. But I think one of my practices is kind of going, okay, Jesus, the outcome is not up to me of this thing, of whatever this thing is, my record coming out or cancer stuff, or the outcome of my kids is not up to me. I mean, I could do my best, but that's just not up to me. And that is so freeing. Like, what a gift to actually live as though that were true. And I think when I get in trouble and when I get drunk on worry or fear or holding on to things too tight is when I start trying to manipulate the outcome or start worrying about the outcome. And that's just dangerous. And I think it'll take years off my life by doing that. So just this clarity has been so helpful to actually, that's why these songs and these prayers is because these are prayers that are hopefully inviting us, all my songs are inviting us out of this need for clarity and need for security, and saying, my hope is not in what you can do for me, God. It's you alone, which is a huge, huge shift.
And that gives total new meaning. This conversation does to that word here, right? And that title of the album here. And as we're just talking through all of this. So as we round out to a close here, what is it that you want people to take away from the album? I love to ask people this because you have, whether it's a book or an album or whatever, somebody's doing a podcast, which I know you do too. What is the big takeaway at the end of listening to these songs, the hope of the feeling in people's souls?
I mean, I think I write prayers, not just for other people, but for myself. And we write books and we do all these things really kind of in some ways in a selfish way, but I'm not dogging myself. It's what I need to hear and be reminded of. And so I think my hope for anybody who hears these songs is there's an honest prayer in these, but really that people would be able to join Jesus all week long, and that their attention would be on him. Because in one of the songs is there's no other gods, it's called. And the chorus is basically, I'm saying this first commandment, which is thou shalt be no other gods before me. That's what God's saying. And I've always taken that as this God saying, well, I'm God and suck it up. I'm the only real game in town. So just worship me. And I think I was teaching on it this past year going, oh no, he's saying there should be no other gods before me because they just don't work. Like, think of all the things that I give all my attention to all the time. And these are wonderful things, my kids, my job, my songs, all the things. But if I make those my God, which I do every day and all day long, that's dangerous. So I think in this season with this record, my hope is that we'd start rethinking our thinking on where we give our attention.
That's great. Well, listen, thank you so much, everyone watching and listening. Head out and grab here. And I appreciate your time. I got to have you back again very soon.
Please do. Awesome.